We welcome in the host of the Locked On Kings podcast. Yes, he was here yesterday. So what? He's here again today. It's Matt George. Matt, what do you think, man?
Ooh, boy. My initial reaction, and I was working at the ABC 10 studios and actually went on for a hit at the ABC 10 studios. But my initial reaction was actually shock and initially anger, because I'm, as many of your callers just said, as many of the people in the chat have said, like, Tyrese Haliburton is one of the most likable, if not the most likable Sacramento King of all time. And that's with Doug Christie as his comparison that we hear so much about. Like, Tyrese is such a good kid. He's such a good dude. He has such a bright future. And while I've said time and time again that no player on a bad Kings team is untouchable, he was the last player I expected to be moved. So to read that notification, to see Woj pop up my phone and see Kings trade Tyrese Haliburton ... was a blow to the stomach and a blow to the heart, really. That being said, thinking about it a little bit more, like, the Kings got better today. The Kings got an all-star, a multi-time all-star in Domantas Sabonis, who's a player that I absolutely love. I think you had a caller earlier that put it perfectly. Like, you don't usually get a walking 2012 or 2010 and 5 guy on a nightly basis. Domantas Sabonis and his pairing with De'Aaron Fox, assuming I heard James Ham saying we can't talk necessarily about Fox and that pairing yet because we don't know if Fox is still going to be around. I'd be shocked if the Kings move Fox at this point. So I'm assuming the two are going to be together. That duo is, in my mind, what the Kings were hoping Fox and Marvin Bagley would be when they drafted Marvin in 2018. Sabonis fills all those stat categories. He's obviously a way better player than Marvin Bagley is. And you tweeted out, D'Lo, that this is De'Aaron Fox's team. Never more clear than it is right now. However, don't be surprised if Domantas Sabonis comes in here and is the Kings' best player, not just right away, but maybe for years to come. And I'm sure we're going to discuss this a little bit later too. There is a significant gamble element of this trade. KC, you touched on it with Sabonis's contract in a couple of years, but and McNair has to figure that out. Don't get me wrong. And it's going to suck to see Tyrese shine in Indiana, because make no mistake about it, he's going to absolutely shine in Indiana. But short term, the Sacramento Kings got an all-star today. They got better. The addition of Lamb and Holiday is also no joke either. And most importantly, guys, Buddy Hield's no longer a Sacramento King, baby.
Oh, Matty McQueen out the bottom. Let's go, baby.
All right, I did that once.
No, I'm glad. I'm glad you did. We've been debating pouring our own glass here through the first. It's like, why does it feel like the show has been so long today? Well, because it has been. We've been on since 11 o'clock.
Like a damn draft day show.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right, man. These are the days. These are the days we're made for. And it's funny. I'm curious how people this time of year consume, like, how you digest those tweets that come across. Because when I pulled out my phone was in my pocket. When I pulled it out and looked, the first thing I see is Sabonis. And then I scan for Sacramento and I see Sacramento, and then I read the tweet in its entirety. I'm curious how people do that when these alerts come through. Do you immediately scan for Sacramento? Do you look for names, or are you normal and you just read the tweet like a normal human being would? Because I just pulled my phone out, scanned. I saw Sabonis. Oh, Sacramento. Oh, God. And then I saw Tyrese Haliburton. It was like, oh, okay, well, today's going to be different.
Hey, Will, we were calling for Monty McNair to make a move, and lo and behold, he made a freaking move. And this was me. I like 4 or 5 hours earlier, I was tweeting cricket GIFs after the CJ McCollum trade went down. And good on McNair and the Kings for stealing the thunder of the Pelicans a little bit. That being said, the Pelicans and Kings are in a direct race right now.
Just to be clear, I don't think they stole the thunder nationally from the Pelicans. Maybe here in Sacramento, the CJ McCollum deal isn't that big, but nationally, I had the NBA Daily on. I had NBA Daily on earlier. CJ McCollum was the lead, not Domantas Sabonis.
Well, was it CJ McCollum gets traded for basically nothing and only 1 first-round pick? Now, I like Josh Hart, but I don't know what in the world Portland is necessarily doing with that move. James Ham said basically they're waving the right white flag, which is a good way to put it. So I mean, I'm looking at this deal, and this deal, the Kings deal, makes so much sense for both sides. Like, I want to give the Indiana Pacers so much freaking credit, because we were hearing rumblings of this deal and this conversation, these trade talks, maybe a week ago. And it was like, oh, the Kings are interested in Sabonis, but they don't want to trade Haliburton. They're offering a package of Barnes and this guy or Bagley and picks or whatever it was. And suddenly the Indiana Pacers get Tyrese Haliburton, a team that is rebuilding, gets a absolute stud piece in Tyrese, who they now have contractual control over long-term, who is good right now and is only going to get better. Like, full props to the Indiana Pacers. This is a home run move for them. And for the Kings, it has a potential to be both a short-term and long-term home run. Obviously, we're going to be paying more attention to the short term this season because the Kings, if you're trading away Tyrese Haliburton, you better be winning right away. Like, there's no excuse for trading away Tyrese and still trying to play the long game. So you better be winning right away. But Fox is 24. Sabonis is 25. Like, they're on the same timeline. It has a chance to work long-term as well. It's just not as guaranteed necessarily as what Indiana is doing. So I look at this trade and I look at how it affects both teams and the pieces being moved. And of course, my Kings bias and the Locked On Kings podcast bias, I think it's way more impactful and interesting than the CJ McCollum trade.
What, when you look at this trade for Sabonis and it's coming to the Kings, does it give you the feeling that they are going for this tendency? They're going for the play and they're staying consistent to that, something they've said throughout the season, as opposed to planning for the future? Or is this the real trade, the rare trade that allows them to kind of do both? I mean, you have Sabonis for another 2 years after this year, yet you can get better immediately with De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis and Jeremy Lamb and Justin Holiday. So is this the rare situation where not only can they compete now, but they can also kind of set themselves up for the future?
You know, I think it's that, Casey. And D'Lo, you put it very well early on in the show when you were talking, either right before James Ham came on or when James was on, which is like, it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be a mixture of both. And in the end, like, the Kings got better. The Kings added an all-star. They made an improvement, and it doesn't have to have immediate results for it to be considered a success. However, what it does for me is it removes all excuses. Like, we were expecting more from a Fox Haliburton backcourt this season, right? Very clear. That hasn't been erased by any means. And De'Aaron Fox, quite frankly, wasn't living up to those expectations when Tyrese Haliburton was, in my opinion. But now the excuse of, well, you got two young guards who are going to try and figure it out together, that's gone. Even if Domantas Sabonis is coming in here, has never played a day with De'Aaron Fox in his life, he's coming in with the expectation that this team has to win right away. This move isn't being made a quarter into the season. Like, you're in the, especially 15 games under 500 or wherever the hell they are, you're in we got to turn this around right freaking now. So the expectation immediately is this team has to win. And then, KC, we talk about the contract situation, which is Domantas Sabonis is under contract for the next 2 years. So this isn't a rental. That being said, Monte McNair has 2 years to get this team right. Because if in 2 years Domantas Sabonis leaves and is not traded away for a good asset, but if the Kings lose Domantas Sabonis in free agency, Monte McNair is out of a job because the Kings gave away Tyrese Haliburton. So there's a clock ticking in that sense too. Kings have to figure out how to make it work. But if, I guess, worst case scenario, the Kings make the play-in and miss the playoffs, or don't even make the play-in. Maybe they get a worse draft pick and that sucks, but they still have an off season and at least one full season to try and figure this thing out. Plus, like James,
and you
Ham
still
said,
have 2 days.
Yeah, you're not
make
done.
Deals.
Right,
Yeah.
You're not done.
Or at least, hopefully, you're not done. Matt George of the Locked On Kings podcast joins us here on D'Lo and KC in reaction to Tyrese Haliburton and Domantas Sabonis, the Sacramento Kings and the Indiana Pacers. That deal happening here just about 48 some odd hours before the NBA trade deadline. Where are you with De'Aaron right now, Matt?
I tell you what, I can't be hearing anything about ankle soreness for the remainder of this season. I can't be hearing none of that. Like, if he doesn't play tonight, if he doesn't play tomorrow night against the Timberwolves, okay, I don't care, because Domantas Sabonis and these pieces aren't going to be here yet. I think the earliest Sabonis would be here is, I think it's Saturday's game against in Washington against the Wizards. That would be the absolute earliest, and even that's not a guarantee. But when Sabonis and these new pieces are here and the Kings are ready to win some basketball games, De'Aaron Fox better be freaking ready to go. And I would argue Fox needs to play tonight because the Kings could win at least one of these two Timberwolves games that could have an effect on the race and the plan. So if Fox, even if he still has a little bit of pain, he better be ready to freaking go, because the King, James Ham said it excellently yesterday on the podcast. The Kings to this point really had not done anything right by De'Aaron. They just went and got an all-star for him to play with. Like, it might not be enough. Don't get me wrong. The Kings aren't vaulted into a championship or playoff conversation necessarily, but the McNair is putting his neck on the line. McNair traded away his guy, his pick, the first move he ever made as a general manager. He traded away that guy to get you an all-star. Right. So you better make it work and you better figure it out quick. So, I mean, this is De'Aaron's team. The weight is even more on his shoulders if it wasn't already. And he has to live up to it. He has to live up to it. Even if he's the second fiddle to Domantas Sabonis, doesn't matter. That too has to be cohesive pretty quick.
Yeah. No, he's got to be on his game from the start. And like you said, if Sabonis ends up being the best player on the team, that's fine. But it can't be because De'Aaron Fox is not stepping up to the plate and not playing to his capabilities. I agree with you 100%, Matt. He's got to be on it 100%, because the whole thought that, nobody has done anything to help him here, the team hasn't done anything to help him. While it's true, I think that takes the onus off not only Fox but the other players here when they're like, oh, Sacramento just hasn't done anything. And I like to see these players take the destiny in their own hands. You know what I mean? Worry about their production and what they're doing. And I think that this eliminates the Sacramento is a problem excuse for not playing well. Now, other stuff, not putting a roster together or having the wrong guys together, I understand that. But that shouldn't be the reason for poor play. Like, now you got somebody with you. You should be elevating your game, and everybody here should see better play on the court.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, time will tell with this deal ultimately, but there's going to be a spotlight on Fox again. Thank goodness the Kings have given us a reason to pay attention to and buy back in, but the patience level is low. There is no patience for let these two figure it out. There's none of that patience. The expectation is, all right, if y'all going for it, you better go for it and you better get results. If not, you better shut things down. And I find it very unlikely that the Kings would trade Tyrese Haliburton away for an all-star piece that then they would proceed to tank. That might even be the smart decision to shut both of them down and try and add a top 5 pick to that duo. Who knows what you get? That might be a smart long-term play. It's not a play that this Kings team makes by trading away Tyrese Haliburton at the deadline when he is arguably the smartest long-term move that he can make. One area that I disagreed with James Ham, as he said earlier, that Kings draft picks have more value than Tyrese Haliburton. I disagree with that, because Tyrese is young, he's under contractual control, and you know what you're getting. Draft picks have a potential to be great, but you'd be lucky if most of your draft picks turn into a Tyrese type player, especially if that draft pick is not going to be top 3 or has a low chance of being top 3, I should say.
Man, it's going to be a wild couple of days when Kings fans settle in on the fact that Monty McNair traded their 2 favorite players in Tyrese Haliburton and Rashawn Holmes.
Did I miss something?
No, I've just kind of come around. Kenny has been trying to pack the U-Haul truck up to Rashawn Holmes' house for the last 2 weeks, and it dawned on me when looking at Sabonis, there probably is a situation where it makes a ton of sense to move Rashawn Holmes. Not that I'm particularly big on that move or big on that move at all, but now you could get me in the framework that it makes more sense here. If this team is in fact not done, if this team in fact does have more deals to be made, a deal for Rashawn Holmes makes a lot more sense today than it did yesterday.
100%. If the Kings are going to trade anyone and get anything of value and of substance, it's going to be either Harrison Barnes or Rashawn Holmes.
Right.
And Marvin Bagley's probably going to be attempted to be attached to that because he's still part of this roster.
And he can be attached to it just as easily as Tristan Thompson was.
Sure, absolutely. And but look at where Domantas Sabonis is coming from, and there was a disconnect in Indiana, frustration with how do Sabonis and Miles Turner play together. And Miles Turner can space the floor. Rashawn Holmes doesn't space the floor. So I don't know if that's better or what. I don't think so, because I think Miles Turner and Rashawn Holmes are pretty comparable with the exception of the floor spacing. You could make an argument for either being better than the other, although I think most people would pick Miles Turner, but maybe it's only a slight margin. I don't know. So I think it makes a ton of sense for the Kings to look to shop to Rashawn Holmes. Not that I'm necessarily saying I want Rashawn gone, but someone in the chat I was reading earlier said, hey, can Domantas Sabonis fit with Rashawn? If not, Rashawn's gone. Like, that's an easy decision to make. So what can you turn Rashawn Holmes into? Can you get a stretch big that can also protect the rim a little bit? Because you're not as concerned with rebounding anymore, because Sabonis is a glass cleaner, a glass eater, although more rebounding never hurts you. I expect if the Kings are still making calls, which they probably are still making calls, Rashawn Holmes and Harrison Barnes are the two big names that are out there. And I think it makes a lot more sense for Rashawn to be on the block than it does Harrison at this point in time.
What do you think about the other two guys that the Kings got in there, and Jeremy Lamb and Justin Holiday? I like those guys. I like what they can bring to this team, into this roster. Are you expecting anything from those guys, or are they just kind of trade filler, kind of throwing guys?
I mean, if they're trade filler, it's damn good filler. Like, and I don't have high expectations for them. I like Jeremy Lamb. I like Justin Holiday a lot too. I like all the Holidays. Like the Holidays, that's just a good group of guys, good brotherhood, good players. I like what Justin Holiday brings. He is more of a defensive-minded guard, although his scoring is up significantly this year. Now, he was doing it on a bad team. And when I say significantly, he went from like 8.7 for his career to like 11 points a game. His shooting percentages aren't great. It's like 37% from three-point range, but at least it's better than kind of what you had to some extent. I mean, you're just addition by subtraction with Buddy Hield being gone. Both these guys are going to play more defense than Buddy Hield. That's clear to see. I'm interested to see if we're going to have a Fox and Mitchell starting backcourt for the remainder of this season, because we saw Mitchell and Haliburton figure it out. We haven't seen Fox and Mitchell together. But those two, I think you can plug in and they can get solid rotational minutes, make up for the loss of Terrence Davis to some extent. They do play relatively similar positions, so maybe one plays over the other. I'm not sure. I know Jeremy Lamb is an expiring contract. I wouldn't be surprised if the Kings have interest in bringing him back, kind of a la Terrence Davis last year. But I like both of them. Like in the grand scheme of things, the Kings traded away a really, really lovable piece in Tyrese Haliburton and a whatever Buddy Hield was and whatever the hell Tristan Thompson was, and they get back a all-star and two solid contributing players. I mean, there's short-term a lot to really like about this deal. I know it hurts that Tyrese is gone, but there's a lot to like with this deal.
Did the Kings trade the most likable and the least likable player in the same trade? And I don't even know which one of the other two is the least likable. No, I don't know if it's 24 or TT.
I think TT's likable. I like TT. I don't like his relationship decisions, but I like TT.
Okay.
Well, one wasn't playing and the other one
TT doesn't. Matt George doesn't get push notifications from People Magazine. You sign up for push notifications from People Magazine, you might start thinking differently about Tristan Thompson.
What does TT do? I'm just
what did he do?
Everything. He literally, or I shouldn't say everything. I should say everyone.
Oh, well.
Everywhere.
Okay. Poor innocent Matt George, William Jessup. I just blew Matt George's mind.
What does that mean?
Like, I don't understand. Boy, Buddy is the what? Buddy and Marvin, is that the no? I'm trying to mark. Would Buddy and Marvin mark the end of the Vlade Divac era, or does it still exist because De'Aaron and I guess Harrison too, right?
I think DeMontis. I think the era is now over with the acquisition of Domantas Sabonis. Like, I think that the Divac era is over, and you were never going to completely replace his roster, especially with De'Aaron Fox still being here. But I think it makes it easier for me because De'Aaron's contract was McNair's decision versus McNair didn't inherit that contract, so it makes it easier with Fox still being part of that core. I think the last bit of Vlade on this roster is Marvin Bagley, and that's a massive chunk of Vlade, obviously with how important that pick was to the demise of Vlade Divac. And I'm still rooting for Bagley to be traded just so we can put this colossal failure, and it will go down as one of the biggest failures in the history of the Sacramento Kings, which is saying something. It will go down as that, and I'm ready for that saga just to be over completely. But Domantas Sabonis being added to this roster, Domantas Sabonis is more impactful than everything that Vlade did basically combined. Like he just is, or the expectation is that he's going to be. The Kings have a legitimate all-star on their roster. The biggest move Vlade made was trading away an all-star who we know how everything went down with DeMarcus. So I think I can officially say bon voyage to Vlade, and I know Casey I would have listened to a conversation.
Oh, it was going to be good. Oh, it was going to be good.
You had a point. You had a point too with Monty sitting on his hands. Monty's not sitting on his hands anymore. I said this trade takes cojones. This move takes cojones to trade away a very likable player, a fan favorite player, and your first ever pick for Sabonis and for the gamble that is, and to commit to Fox really again. You financially committed to him. Now you've picked him over your guy. That takes cojones to do. I give McNair credit. I hope it works out for him, because if not, we're going to be in a world of hurt again for probably another 5 years, and Tyrese will be on a playoff team in Indiana.
Damian, time to change the passwords to Google. I think Monty has hacked our sheets as we prepared for this show, and he said, no, we're not talking about that today. Watch what I do.
It's a real talk. Kenny said on the call today, I have this idea, like Monty's not doing anything. You could argue Vlade's better at this than Monte, and they should have stuck with Vlade. And I was like, hey, say less. I ain't gonna respond to you. I'm gonna respond to you on the air. And then, I think it was less than an hour later that got blown up. That got thrown completely out the door. But I promise you, it would have been an interesting conversation.
We would have talked about it. About it.
Hi. So question, Matt George, Locked On Kings podcast and ABC 10, guys. Just a quick question in the back. Did the Indiana Pacers make the playoffs before the Sacramento Kings?
Stop asking me these blank questions.
Can you imagine how many teams have leapfrogged the Kings? If Tyrese leads the Pacers to the playoffs before the Kings get there with Fox and Sabonis, oh boy.
Stop asking me stupid questions.
Don't disrespect me, bro.
Stop disrespecting me, bro. Like, don't do that.
Hey, do we need to
do that?
So
forgot that part.
So
I can guarantee you that's over.
Oh man. Does that have to be taken out? Does that have to be retired off the soundboard out of respect?
No, man. No, we keeping it.
Or is it a tribute?
We keeping it. Well, we keeping it.
I can guarantee you that's over.
It is, Mr. Haliburton.
To answer your question, Matt, I'm going to say, I'm not afraid to say. I'll say it with my chest. I'll say no.
Yeah, I'm going to say no too, by the way. Okay. I'm going to say no too. I think they've made a couple of mistakes along the way. They have some. Who is their head coach right now?
It's
Carlisle.
Yeah,
which is a big deal.
Yeah,
they're not
I'm gonna go no.
All though.
I'm gonna go no.
I mean, you got
they're where the Kings are.
Yeah, you got Tyrese, you got Duarte, you got Miles Turner. That's really about it. Am I forgetting anybody?
You got Miles Turner for now.
I tell you one thing though, I wouldn't be surprised. Like with all the teams that have leapfrogged the Kings, I would not be surprised. I'm certainly not rooting for it, that's for sure. And the Kings better be in the playoffs beforehand, but I would not be surprised.
Oh, I forgot
this.
I forgot about that.
From Tinseltown to Indiana. This Woj thing about how this Kings deal stunned the NBA. This is sort of trash. Like the whole line that he used, and I don't know if I can pull that sound up quickly enough again, because you just know I'm not that skilled when it comes to my own soundboard here. Is he's talking about the league wished that they didn't know Tyrese Haliburton was available. Let me see if I can find that Woj sound. This person who posted it has tweeted 4 million times since posting this sound, and it doesn't appear to be. Here we go. Let's see how many times it takes me to actually get the sound to play. 4 million. There it is. Nope, that's me. That's a very nice voice from that individual. But let's take 6.
Stunned. Tyrese Haliburton was stunned, Malika. The league is stunned at this trade. And the fact that he was even available. I think there were a lot of teams who thought if we knew we could have gotten Tyrese Haliburton, we would have been really knocking at the door in Sacramento. We'll talk about it more later, but this is a move. This was a player who everyone had thought, including Tyrese Haliburton, that he'd be the cornerstone for their future.
Yeah, absolutely. I spoke to someone in the Sacramento Kings organization today who just told me what the heck is going on.
Stunned.
That person she talked to wasn't me, which is the big problem. You want to hang around a few more minutes, Matt?
I'm down.
I mean, it's not like you have a life to live, kids to take care of, a wife, nothing like that. You just sit here and talk Kings basketball. We'll come back. We'll talk more with Matt George. We'll just hold him hostage here as D'Lo and KC continue on Sacramento's #1 sports station, ESPN 1320. Okay, I figured he was, but that's why I thought we might be better off trying to get him today than tomorrow. But okay, thank you.
My sister-in-law will be dropping off my son at some point, so I'll have to hop off for that.
Yeah, no, we'll do a couple more minutes and then kind of get some closing thoughts. I'm sure you got to do a podcast also.
Oh, I already did. It just dropped.
Oh, you already did it?
Oh yeah, it's just dropped. No, I recorded it right when I got home, but she'll be texting me when she's on her way and she's coming from like West Sac, so I'll have time. So there's no rush, no sense of urgency.
Okay.
Hang
on. Got it. Yeah, let's do it. 2:20. All right, that's easy. 7 minutes. Okay. So we just got confirmation. Bobby Marks is going to join us.
Oh, nice.
At 2:20.
Oh, huge. And get me out of here.
Oh no, we got time. We got plenty of time. Good job, Jesse. Thank you.
Good job, Jesse. See if he wants to come on Locked On Kings too, Jesse. Get it done.
Book it.
Book it.
It does make me a bit sad that you didn't know who Marty Jannetty was.
I forgot his name.
Though kind of understandable.
I almost said Roddy Piper, and then I was like, that's way
wrong.
I was like, no, not even close.
Roddy Piper.
I get that she loved him growing up, but I don't like Rhonda with the rowdy stuff. I'm like, get out of here. Get your own shit.
Did you see her her .com promo after the Royal Rumble?
No, was it bad?
Oh, like I assume I'm assuming it's a character she's working. But man, she is really she is hateable. Like she is really easy to dislike. Like they're smart in booking her as a heel. Because I can't imagine she's that big of a dick. Like that had to have been like a heel promo.
No,
she came across terrible.
She always kind of has though, and that's why when she came into the WWE,
but this time I think she's doing it on purpose.
Right, but I mean, when she came into the WWE and she'd come down the ramp with this big smile on her face, I'm like, what the hell? Who are you?
She was never able to let that smile of, oh, I'm just so happy to be here.
I got a pop. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
I don't give a damn about my reputation. I did see that. Yeah, I did see that. True story. Vince picked Brock over his son. Cold world. Cold world. Sorry, man. I'm just getting this.
You're fine.
The graphic together for Bobby's call.
I'm also
Jesse. You'll tweet that out. Okay.
I'm also kind of excited for once Bobby's gone for you to open up the phone lines again because I like the people chiming in.
Yeah.
I got to figure out a way to do that, and I know there's like a Google phone number that you could do that, and like basically a Google voicemail for people to leave their takes in there. And I did that for Locked On Kings for a while. It didn't really work.
Have you tried just like using spaces or something like that?
No, I haven't. And I know Deuce and Mo use Discord, which is brilliant because I definitely do Discord stuff just for gaming. But I have people asking for me to start doing live pods, and I'm going to explore that a little bit in the summertime, but can't swing that right now. Too many things going on right now.
Yeah. I'm having trouble loading this. Let's see here. Oh, we should pop. James is recording the Kings Beat. We should just pop into it right now. Like, hey guys, what's up?
You with my boy Shawnee.
That's right. Yeah, your coworker.
My boy.
Thank you. Hey, KC, Bobby Marks at 220 for about 7 minutes.
Let's go. Let's go.
Those Tic Tacs? What was that?
Peanuts and
Coming
crazy.
back, guys. Hang on. Peanuts and crazy. Live on the Odyssey app, live on 1320 AM. We're live on Twitch. We're live on Facebook. We are live everywhere, and we're so happy that you are here with us. Just got confirmation that ESPN front office insider Bobby Marks is going to join us coming up at 2:20 to let us know what he thinks about this deal with the Sacramento Kings and Tyrese Haliburton. Matt George of the Locked On Kings podcast still with us here on D-Lo and KC as Tyrese Haliburton is headed to Indiana. Domantas Sabonis on his way to Sacramento. I feel like one thing that shouldn't be lost in all of this, and I'm not sure if anybody's actually like said it or at least phrased it this way. We wanted Monty swing for the fences, and he did. Like it was Ben Simmons, it was Domantas Sabonis. Those were the most realistic targets. Of course, there was, Bradley Beal and Dame Lillard. Whether you choose to believe any of that stuff, that's another story. But in terms of realistic targets, was Sabonis and Ben Simmons, and Monty went out and did it. And when you swing for the fences, it's what we've talked about. So like, hey man, universal deal ain't gonna do it. Yeah. Buddy and Marvin isn't gonna do it. And it took Tyrese Haliburton, and I'm as disappointed as everybody else is to see Tyrese go. But I'm anxious to see whether this works, and I hope it does. It could, because that's the end goal. Matt, is like the idea is for the Sacramento Kings to be better.
Yeah, and it absolutely is a swing for the fences. Now, it may only end up being a triple or a double, but sure as hell is better than the Kings bunting the ball foul, which is what they've been doing for the last 2 months. So no, I love it for McNair. Like I said last segment, it takes cojones for him to make this decision, and I think it is a decision that could end up being really, really good. And this is a gamble that has the potential to finally turn things around, or it could set the Kings back massively. There is no safe move that the Kings could make that was really going to make that much of a difference unless it was openly tank. And even so, there's an element of risk to that too, because the draft is never a guarantee, as the Kings have proven a million freaking times. Yeah. So I credit Monty McNair for the swing. There's really two set in stone things that I pulled from today. Number one is, if it wasn't clear before, it's clear now. Tyrese Haliburton had more trade value than De'Aaron Fox, because we heard Fox being floated out there in conversations, and we heard not interested, not very interested, maybe, nah, not really. And Tyrese ends up being the guy that gets a deal like this done to get an all-star in return. Tyrese Haliburton, now there's other reasons than just numbers for this, like contract has a massive thing to do with it, but Tyrese has more trade value than De'Aaron. It took Tyrese to get a deal like this done. And I'm sure McNair, that was not his first choice, but in the end, it was the choice that he had to make. That's number one. Number two is the Kings play the Indiana Pacers on March 23rd. That game's in Indiana. Is there anybody who doesn't believe that Tyrese is going to drop, or is not going to drop a triple-double on the Kings' heads? Like, Tyrese is going to destroy the Kings. Hopefully the Kings win that game. I think Tyrese is going to fall.
He's going to play well. But why we always think that every person that leaves here is going on to be an all-star? Every time somebody plays against us, they're going to drop 50. He don't have a good game because he's a good ball player, but it's not going to be any different than any other game he's going to have the rest of this season.
Okay, we'll wait and see. I'm expecting fireworks.
I think you're trying to protect your heart.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
I'm ready.
You're trying to protect your heart.
Nope, I'm not. I'm in denial.
Oh my. Okay. Here's a piece of news from Adrian Wojnarowski. It does matter. It doesn't involve the Sacramento Kings, but it's a hell of a note. Washington Wizards All-Star Bradley Beal plans to undergo season-ending surgery on his left wrist.
Wow.
So,
Maybe they'll take Bagley for him now.
Wow.
Oh, there's that. That's newsworthy.
That is.
Bradley Beal's like, I'm going to buy myself some time before I ask out.
Ooh.
Like, this is going nowhere. So yeah, season-ending surgery for Bradley Beal. So
on over the summer.
Yeah, I think so too. Wow. I think so too. So De'Aaron, Bradley Beal, Domantas Sabonis.
Come on now.
Like that's the squad right there, right? The no defense squad right there. Oh, we're used to that.
Don't play with me.
So trade dominoes just kind of keep falling, even though that wasn't a trade. We know that CJ McCollum is off to the New Orleans Pelicans, and the Pelicans look like they're trying to lock themselves into that 10th spot. And I guess the Kings are going to be competitive for that spot. Whether it's like by intention of, we're going for the 10th spot. It's like, no, we're trying to get better, and hopefully in the process, it involves us winning games. If we win games, then we wind up in the 10th spot. But it did get a little bit more interesting with the New Orleans Pelicans appearing to go up, the Portland Trailblazers appearing to go down, and we'll wait to see what the Sacramento Kings wind up doing.
Yeah, do you think the Pelicans and that trade happening today had any significant influence on the timing of this deal? Like, if that trade doesn't happen earlier today, does McNair pull the trigger on this deal or not?
I thought it did. James Ham said absolutely not. I thought it did because from everything that was being talked about, what James Ham was saying, the Kings were making Tyrese available to the media and Davion before they go to the Rising Stars and stuff. It seemed like 24 hours ago, everything was all good. It was, let's showcase these guys to our media because we're not going to – it's all good. And I'm not saying that there was no deal or no offer. They heard that trade and then they started offering. I think something might have been on the table. They might have talked to Indiana and said, hey, what does it take for Sabonis? And they're like, well, Tyrese Haliburton, we can start there. Kings might have been like, we'll get back to you on that one. And after the CJ McCollum trade, I think they got back to Indiana on that one. And they were like, all right, we're ready to make that move. James said it had nothing to do with it. He's got more connects in this one maybe than I do. But I to answer your question, man, I think it did have something to do with it.
Are the Kings ahead or behind New Orleans still? Not just standings wise. I mean, in terms of overall talent. This could be with or without Zion, because there's a big difference there.
I think they're behind. That's my opinion.
Even without Zion?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Because the best player is on the New Orleans Pelicans, right? Even with Sabonis is a King, the best players on the New Orleans Pelicans.
Is that Ingram?
Yeah.
My 3 are on the Kings.
You said the next 3 are on the Kings?
2 and 3. So
2, okay.
1,
De'Aaron,
3 are on the Kings.
Sabonis. Okay.
And I don't even really know. Were we talking about Herb Jones after that?
Well, no, they got CJ McCollum.
Oh, CJ. I forgot CJ's there now. Well, they might have 1 and 2, to be honest.
Okay, so that's what I was going to press you on.
Yeah.
So they got 1 and 2. Then maybe the Kings have 3 and 4. But I think the caveat to all of this is they're in a position in that 10th spot to where they're like, yeah, of course we want it. Why wouldn't we? I don't care what we do in the draft next year. Theoretically, we have Zion Williamson coming back.
Just so. Also, do you think this move helps their case of, because we've heard already reports, not that he has control necessarily, but we've heard reports of Zion already being unhappy and thinking about getting out of New Orleans. Does this help? CJ's there. You still got Ingram. That team's got to win, obviously, but
I would think so. I would think so. If I'm Zion or I'm his people, I'm looking around and I'm seeing that they have 2 guys that can help shoulder the load. With Zion and with CJ and Brandon Ingram. So I think it would help. Yeah.
Does Zion even still have that influence? The man hasn't played since May. And now you got CJ and Ingram there who are, especially if that team starts winning without him,
it depends.
Call his bluff.
It depends. Is Zion still 320 or is he 275 right now? Because I'm going to guess 275 Zion Williamson has a lot more influence than 325 Zion Williamson has.
I agree.
Matt, thanks for jumping in with us, man. It was unplanned. We know you already did the Locked On Kings podcast, which is available for everybody as soon as D'Lo and Casey concludes, of course. you can go check out the latest edition of the Locked On Kings podcast. Again, man, thanks for carving out almost an hour and hanging out with us, man. We appreciate it.
Anytime, my friends. These are the days that I live for, and we'll see how it plays out. Kings fans, there's reason to be terrified and happy at the same time. So let's go party together.
Yes, indeed. Words of wisdom from Maddie McQueen right there.